What if everything you've been told about evolution is not just an incomplete story, but a barrier to the biggest truth of all? This is the story of a journey. A journey from confident atheism, anchored in mainstream science, to a startling revelation. For many, the narrative is settled: life is a cosmic accident, a magnificent but mindless product of random mutations and natural selection. This story is presented as fact, a conclusion that renders belief in a creator obsolete. But what happens when you actually examine the evidence? Not the slogans, but the raw data written in stone and encoded in life itself? The first major crack in the materialist edifice appears not in a philosophy book, but in the fossil record. Darwin himself worried about it. He predicted a gradual, branching tree of life, with countless transitional forms connecting one species to another. But the stones tell a different story. They speak of sudden, dramatic explosions. The most famous is the Cambrian Explosion. In a geological blink of an eye, nearly all the major animal body plans we know today appeared fully formed, with no clear evolutionary ancestors. These creatures, like the trilobite, arrived with breathtaking complexity, sophisticated compound eyes, intricate systems, from the very start. This pattern isn't a one-time anomaly. It repeats. The sudden arrival of fish, of amphibians, of mammals, of birds. Innovation in the history of life doesn't drip, it gushes. New forms arise explosively, complete and complex. This is the opposite of Darwin's gradual tree. It's more like a series of sudden creations. As one scientist puts it, the highest categories of life, the fundamental blueprints, appear first, fully distinct, and simultaneously. So, we have to ask, what force, what process, can generate entirely new biological information so rapidly and coherently? Information is the signature of a mind, never an accident of matter. This leads us to the second, and perhaps deeper, revolution, the discovery of the digital code at the heart of life. DNA isn't just a chemical, it's an instructional manual written in a four-letter alphabet. To build the proteins that build a body, cells follow this code with a precision that dwarfs our best software. Where does any code come from? In our uniform, universal experience, codes, languages, and complex specified information have only one known source: intelligence. A mind. We infer a programmer for software, an author for a book, an engineer for a machine. When we find a hieroglyphic inscription, we don't attribute it to wind and erosion. We know a thinking being was there. The information in life's simplest cell is exponentially more complex than any inscription. If we apply the same logical reasoning we use in every other field, what does the evidence point toward? A purely material process has never been observed to create functional digital information. Yet, a mind does it constantly. This creates a profound crisis at the heart of modern evolutionary theory. The standard mechanism, random genetic mutations filtered by natural selection, is brilliant at explaining small tweaks. The finch's beak changes shape, moths change color. But can it build a finch from scratch? Can it write the first chapter of the genetic code? Leading biologists are now openly admitting the theory is inadequate. They've held conferences calling for an extended evolutionary synthesis, desperately seeking a new naturalistic explanation for the grand leaps of life. They admit the old model is broken, but have nothing to replace it with. Let's be clear, this isn't about rejecting science. It's about following the evidence where it leads, even if it leads out of our comfort zone. Evolution, even if true for minor changes, answers how, not why. It doesn't explain why the universe exists at all. It doesn't explain why the fundamental constants of physics are exquisitely fine-tuned to allow for stars, planets, and life. A fraction different, and nothing exists. It cannot explain the origin of life from non-life. It is silent on the origin of consciousness, of beauty, of the moral law within us. This is the cultural moment we're in. Surveys show belief in God, especially among the young, is declining. And the number one reason cited? Science. Specifically, the idea that evolution has made God unnecessary. But what if science, in its truest, most empirical form, is pointing in the exact opposite direction? What we've discovered in the last 70 years, the cosmic beginning, the fine-tuning, the digital information in the cell, doesn't point toward meaninglessness. It screams for an explanation that transcends matter. This was the personal turning point. Growing up atheist, these were the slogans I believed: science has disproven God. But when I finally looked at the evidence myself, not through the lens of popular culture but of raw data and logical inference, the foundation shook. The materialist story wasn't just boring or bleak, it was insufficient. It failed to explain the world I actually saw, a world of breathtaking engineering, specified complexity, and intelligible laws. I realized I hadn't rejected God based on evidence, I had accepted a narrative without examining the evidence. So, I made a film. Not to preach, but to present. Not as propaganda, but as an invitation. Here is the evidence that changed my mind. The fossil puzzles. The information mystery. The fine-tuning of the cosmos. You don't have to accept my conclusion, but I challenge you to truly look at the data. The goal was to equip people, to show that faith isn't a blind leap into darkness, but a rational step toward the light. To show that you can love science and still find room for the divine. Because the tide is turning. Hard materialism is failing as a satisfying philosophy for life. People feel its emptiness. They are exploring spirituality, consciousness studies, panpsychism, anything to escape the cold, dead universe materialism offers. They sense there must be more. And they're right. The evidence suggests that what we dismissed as a primitive God of the gaps might actually be the foundation of all reality. The transcendent mind behind the laws of physics. The intelligent designer of life's digital code. The source of the moral and aesthetic sense within us. This isn't going backward, it's going deeper. The first layer we abandon is often the final truth we rediscover. You might have been told, in the beginning, God created, as a simple Sunday school story. Then you went to school and were taught to dig deeper, to leave that simple idea behind for the sophisticated story of cosmic accident. But what if the deepest dig of all, into the very fabric of reality, brings you back to that first premise? Not as a childish tale, but as the most profound and elegant explanation for why anything exists, why it's ordered, and why it's beautiful. This is the invitation. Not to stop asking how things work. We should marvel at the mechanisms. But to also ask why they are here at all. Why is the universe not silent and empty? The materialist can only describe the how. The theist has an answer for the why. And in our age of deep existential longing, that answer matters more than ever. If this exploration of evidence, reason, and ultimate questions resonates with you, then you're in the right place. Your engagement fuels this channel. So, if you found this valuable, please like this video, it helps more people encounter these ideas. And for more journeys to the frontier of thought, make sure to subscribe to Winds of Thought.